Presentation. I recognize the Honourable Member for Nevis 9.
I thought the member for Nevis 10 was going to speak, but he's not here. Madam Deputy Speaker, I rise and I promise to be brief on this because I mentioned to the Honourable Attorney General that philosophically, these two bits of legislation coming as they are on the same day in the Parliament would warrant some level of explanation to the public. Because on the one hand, we would have considered whistleblowers legislation designed, as we have pointed out, to create a framework for persons who observe that something wrong is happening to come forward. And that has been passed into law with the unanimous support of the House. We now, on the same afternoon, are looking at unauthorized disclosure of official information and seeking to penalize individuals for unlawful disclosure or unauthorized, let me use the language, disclosure of official information. Now, I have heard the comparisons made to the situation in the United States involving former President Donald Trump and even Hillary Clinton. I think that is an important point that ought to be made, that America, the United States of America, has specific legislation dealing with official secrets. And so, in the United States, Madam Deputy Speaker, there is a clear understanding of what documents constitute official secrets or national security documents, so that individuals who come into contact with those documents or that information can find themselves in hot water, as President Trump and former Secretary of State she was, Hillary Clinton, find themselves or found themselves as a consequence. So it comes from a particular framework that exists in America that perhaps doesn't exist here. So I'm just warning against the comparison may not be a real comparison. Because in the US, you have the Official Secrets Act. And you have a whole suite of legislation that outlines what documents are secret documents and therefore cannot be disclosed. In fact, you would sometimes see that it's only after a number of years. You notice now, for example, you will see documents being released because the period of time which those documents were deemed secret has elapsed. Other times you see documents released, and I don't even know why, Madam Deputy Speaker, because they're so badly redacted that you can't even tell what it is the document is talking about. But those are as a result of official secrets. And official secrets, as I understand it, have largely to do with national security. So some of the issues that were raised quite properly by the Honourable Attorney General, issues of disclosing where, for example, people in the witness protection program might be. Those are clearly serious national security issues. An operation that is planned by the police or the joint military forces to go after gangs or to go after contraband. If that is disclosed, that would be a breach of national security. We don't really have so many issues in terms of risks from neighbors, but in countries where there's some level of volatility, where there's risk of war and the like, we have agencies, spy agencies in various countries, the CIA, KGB, Mossad, MI5, MI6, as the case may be. Those are the types of agencies and the type of information that ordinarily will be protected. And so I have no difficulty there. I mentioned to the AG that where my concern arises in relation to this has really to do with the much wider ambit of what this legislation is seeking to achieve. If I can put it this way, if all that we were seeking to do is to say, listen, you can't disclose things that are going to damage national security, things that involve our relations with friendly countries, matters that are official secrets, then I would not even be standing. But to me, this goes a bit further because it talks about a Section 8, unauthorized disclosures, confidential government communications. Okay, I appreciate that that could be. Prejudicial commercial communication, I'm not sure what that means. Health and safety, that too could be important. Information related to sustainable development. What does that mean? Why should that information be protected? So, for example, sustainable development, the ministry or department now deals with land, for example. So if 10 pieces of land in an area in Singles, Lagreet, are allocated, what is so special about that information? And I'm not trivializing it. I'm just using an example of one of the things that sustainable development deals with. But an example. So sustainable development, as I understand it, deals with land. An example. So if you were to allocate 10 parcels of land in Lagreet, what is so important about that information that it should be somehow protected? Government or statutory corporation policy making. There was a time, for example, when solid waste handed out garbage bins to everybody in St. Kitts. So if they plan to do it, was disclosed, what is so damaging to the national interest that everybody in St. Kitts is going to get a garbage bin? I'm using examples just to illustrate the point that I'm making. You go further in the legislation, and we say at section 8(4), section 8, subsection 4, for the purposes of subsection 1(c), a disclosure is damaging if it contains information likely to endanger life, health, or safety of any person. That is fine. Information from, regarding, or concerning medical files, that too is fine. For the purpose at 5 of section 1(d), a disclosure is damaging if it contains information likely to cause serious prejudice to the ability of the government to manage the economy of St. Kitts and Nevis. I'm not sure what that means. Because certainly the Prime Minister, charged with, generally speaking, the economy, although I know we have a minister responsibility for investment, they may have their own prescriptions. That's the prerogative of any government. They have their policy as to how they want to move the economy. Members over here may have a different view. They may say, for example, we want to have more CBI. That is our policy prescription. People over here may say, no, we want a ganja industry. That is the better prescription. What in the disclosure that the government's position is to do more CBI is dangerous or deleterious to the country in such a way that somebody who were to disclose, well, you know, that's the government's policy, that somehow becomes unauthorized and criminalized behavior. You see, to me, the point I'm getting at, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I'm not sure if I'm being as clear as I would like to be, is that you have different types of information. Some information, without a doubt, should be protected. That, to me, is the comparison with the United States and Trump and those. Official secrets, defense, national security, we understand. Things that will impact people's lives, endanger life, endanger health, we understand. But some of these now, where you tell me that information likely to cause prejudice to the ability of the government to manage the economy, I don't know what that means. I truly don't know what that means and how you're going to police that. You then have information likely to cause serious prejudice to the legitimate commercial or financial interests of a statutory corporation. Again, how do you quantify that? And if you can't quantify it, if you can't tell, well, that is the type of information, how do you hold people accountable by saying, well, this individual has engaged in unauthorized disclosure of such information? You go on at subsection 6 of the same section 8. Disclosure is damaging if it contains A, information likely to cause serious prejudice to the effective formulation or development of government or statutory corporation policy. Information likely to seriously frustrate the success of a government or statutory corporation policy by premature disclosure of that policy. Information likely to significantly undermine the deliberative process of the government or statutory corporation by inhibiting the free and frank provision of advice or exchange of views. The sum total of this small point I'm trying to make is that it seems to me that the ambit of this legislation is a bit too wide. And it takes us into uncharted waters, so to speak, in terms of saying, what information are we really trying to protect? Because information such as government policy, government strategy, I know that my examples are simplistic, but the Prime Minister said more CBI is what we need. That is his strategy. So it's discussed among the technocrats. We need to go now and find, let's go to Iceland, and let's go to Timbuktu, and let's find more people to participate in this program. That is our strategy. How does the disclosure of that strategy rise to a level that you're going to criminalize people who say, man, that strategy, that don't make sense. A bad strategy. They need to be investing in renewable energy, ganja, other things. What if the Honorable Prime Minister tomorrow were to say to the UK government and the European governments, listen, we have a lot of land here. In Nevis, I got the whole southern coast empty. Instead, again, we want all that money. Send some of the people here. Put in infrastructure and let's do a deal. It's part of his government's policy. But that's why you elect him, you know? And if he gets it wrong, in 3.5 years, the people have an opportunity to tell him he got it wrong. That's why we have elections. So that the electorate is the ultimate arbiter on whether the government gets their policy right or wrong. So, if somebody were to say that we sat in a meeting and that is what the government is going to do, they're going to take people seeking asylum in the UK, like Rwanda is trying to do, and we're going to make $1 billion from doing that. That is a strategy. This legislation is saying, well, that person now could be made a criminal because that might negatively impact the ability of the government to implement that strategy. And so, again, I am simply saying that to me the legislation is well-intentioned. I do not want to be seen as opposing it because I don't oppose it. But a legislation which is a bit narrower in scope, which really deals head-on with confidential national security, official secrets, those types of documents are to me the relevant documents that they should catch, rather than it appears some of the provisions which widen the net. Because let's face it, as disruptive as it may be, and as wrong, let me use that word, as it may be, to use the example from the Honorable Senator opposite, that the government sits and decides, okay, December 15th and 16th, for sake of argument, I don't know what the dates are going to be the VAT days. And somebody decides that they are breaking news. So they send a friend by the VAT days, get ready. And that person puts it up. Because going back to our current climate, we also have a climate now everybody wanting to be forced with the news. That's also part of it. We have a lot of these, what they call them, journalists, Facebook journalists or blogger journalists, and being forced. So this breaking news is a big thing. So you see breaking news and everybody's attention is attracted. But it can't be breaking news if somebody don't break it some time ago. So people want to be first. So when you hear about the VAT days now, you send a little text to your friend. You say, oh, these days are going to be the VAT days, and whatever. Right? But they may well be, notwithstanding the frustration of people, because I share the view that sometimes it's internal. It's not always because of hacking. In fact, I think most times it's internal. And it's not always bad intention either. Honestly. Sometimes it's somebody who's a supporter, who's on the inside. No, sometimes it's malicious. I accept that. But other times, it's somebody sitting down there sending their partner, their friend, a little text to say, listen, this is what is going to happen. Not expecting that their friend, there's a old saying in Nevis that every friend has a friend. He has a lot of friends. Right? So, sometimes it's not necessarily malicious, but information is what it is. And especially with these devices, it moves in an instant. While I hear that, I am all in favor of the processes. I'm just more looking at the quality of the information. So, we have a live example here, mentioned by the Honorable Senator, of information about the dates for VAT going out before it should have. So whether it was by a few minutes, a few hours, or a few days, that information was disseminated prior to the government being ready to disseminate the information. That is wrong. I'm not going to defend that. Question I'm asking, however, was the nature of the information that was disseminated rise to a level that dissemination should be criminalized. So my point is that we ought to focus on the quality of the information that we're talking about, as opposed to simply casting a wide net to say, listen, a lot of this information, things that are happening in the government, you simply can't speak about it. So I feel what we need is a tighter definition of the type of information that we're trying to protect. National security, official secrets, matters that rise to a particular level where life will be endangered, where operations of our police and military will be endangered, where relations with countries might be endangered. Those, to me, are the types of information that we should be protecting. What date we're going to get VAT, or what date some other thing is going to happen, is not as germane. The Honorable Minister for Education came here this morning and he says, tomorrow he's going to be distributing some laptops. Now, what if somebody in his ministry saw that? Could be the cleaner in the office, come in and see the memo on the desk and say, my son going to get a laptop Tuesday. Thank God for labor. And with that, she run and she go home and tell she family, Tuesday, Jeffrey giving all of you laptop. And the son said, what? Let me send a text to my brother, my cousin in school, and all like that. The whole of us stay high now, Tuesday. Laptop going to be disseminated. Not necessarily any malice. But does that information rise to a level that start to say, boy, that is going to somehow prejudice, damage the Ministry of Education's ability to implement this distribution of the one-to-one laptop program? Yes, but I'm saying you can't divorce the two. That's the point I'm trying to make. The act of disclosure should be connected to the type of information being disclosed. You're absolutely correct, What we're doing is criminalizing the act of disclosure. I am just going a step further to say that in other countries, as I understand it, what they looked at was the type of information, not just the act of disclosure. What Section 8 say? I thought that's what I just referred to. Yes, so I'm saying some of these go to my mind. This is my submission. I think you bring me to the conclusion of what I'm trying to say. Some of these listed in Section 8 go too far. I feel they could tighten it rather than what I consider to be an open-ended approach. I've used some examples which may not all be directly on point. But I think the point I'm driving at is that in our culture, how it is set up, how the country is set up, we must expect from time to time. See the example I used about the one-to-one? Easy, so the information is out. So you plan a big surprise tomorrow, for example. Oh, I'm going to surprise the kids with a laptop and take some photos. And the critics are already out there 2 days before to say, imagine, that's where you come in with them old-time programs about laptop. Because you're clean at the office, saw something, and tell little Johnny, Lord, I'm so happy. I'm so glad I voted for Jeffrey. Huh? But I'm just saying, cleaner may be safe, but I'm saying that we need to ensure that the type of information that we are trying to protect rises to a particular level. That we are not just saying, well, listen, we don't want leaks. Leaks are going to happen. I think that is just the nature of things. The example I've used, there's no malice. The cleaner said, thank God she voted for Jeffrey. Johnny get a laptop. She happy. Well, she's so happy she can't wait till Tuesday. Right? So the point that I'm making is that we should try to tighten up, and Section 8, in my view, is a bit wide and a bit unwieldy in terms of how, in fact, it will operate in practice. And so that, for me, is the concern when you start to talk about impeding government policies to grow the economy, impeding the statutory corporations policy. What do you mean? How does this work? And what information are we really trying to protect? That, for me, and I think something closer to the US example, would actually be better. So I support the bill, but I'm asking that it be tightened up so that we don't have difficulties in the future. May it please you.